Hello and welcome back to another episode of the 90 Plus 2 podcast. I'm Xander, and as usual, I'm joined by Jamie. And today we are doing our Premier League predictions. Jamie, you looking forward to this one?
Yeah, of course. I feel slightly more confident for this than I do the Championship ones.
Same, same.
After the opening weekend of the Championship, a couple of them are already looking a bit dodgy.
Yeah,
If you haven't seen that video already, go back and give it a watch. It's on the channel, the most recent upload. But yeah, I mean, I'm ready to get straight into it. I've
yeah,
got the Premier League table here. I've got the transfers here as well, so we can give a bit more insight this time. Kind of went in a bit raw for the Championship, but yeah, I'll kick things off with my 20 to 18.
yeah.
So in 20th place, may not come as a surprise to anyone, but I have gone for Leicester. So
Really?
I'm
I was
predicting Leicester to
surprised
go.
by that one, but okay.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, as you'll see later on, the friends of the channel's predictions, quite a few Leicester bottoms, so that's why I thought maybe. But yeah, so Leicester, they come straight back off, obviously. Did a great job last year, but they have lost their manager, of course. He's gone to Chelsea, and joining him at Chelsea, a key player for them last year, Kiernan Dewsbury Hall. He went to Chelsea for 30 mil. A couple of other big notable absences, including Iheanacho has gone, Harry Souttar to Sheffield United, who it might not seem like that, but he played quite a lot for Leicester last year. And in terms of the incomings, there's just not really anybody there who excites me that much. Bobby Decordova-Reid from Fulham, I mean, he's kind of been skirting around like he is a Premier League quality player. Fatawu from Sporting does seem like quite a good addition. I'll give them
yeah.
that. And I cannot claim to know much about Caleb Okoli from Atalanta. But those are kind of the only incomings, except for Buonanotte from Brighton is probably quite a good signing, but it's only a loan. So I just don't know if they'll have enough. I mean, it is a very strong Premier League this year, and I've spent like a long time on these predictions trying to refine them. I know both of us coming into this right until the last minute
Yeah.
were changing our orders. Like it's always the way, but someone has to finish bottom, and again, this may come back to bite me, obviously, but I think it'll be Leicester. I just don't see them having enough. Then in 19th, I've gone for Southampton, so another one of the promoted sides. I don't know if it'll be a direct similarity to last year, where the promoted sides don't do as well, but I just feel like it is just one of those years where like everybody else in the Prem is just so strong, and I don't know if they'll have enough time to adjust necessarily. Southampton, quite a lot of incomings here, and not many that probably people have heard of. But Taylor Harwood-Bellis, a big one from Manchester City,
Yeah.
and he has gone into my fantasy team because he's a nice
Okay.
cheap option. Ben Brereton Diaz from Villarreal for 7 mil.
I
Proven
think that's
goals
quite a
there.
good signing.
Yeah, if you can get him firing for 7 mil, that could end up being a really astute piece of business. Flynn Downs from West Ham for 20 million or 18 million. Not sure about that one necessarily, whether he warrants the price tag, but time will tell. And I've got to give a mention, Adam Lallana returning to the club on a
Yeah.
free. So could well be a good homecoming for him. But yeah, in terms of their absences, Ju Catalar off to Lyon, and Che Adams on a free to Torino. So
Yeah.
I don't know whether they may live to regret that one. I'm not entirely sure whether it was he wanted to move or if they just didn't renew him. I don't know if you know about Che
I
Adams
think
there.
Chams was more looking to get a move away. I think in the summer there was quite a bit of interest in him. Wolves, Bournemouth were quite interested in him. But yeah, I think it was more just a case of him wanting to move on and looking for
Yeah,
somewhere else.
yeah. Of course, you know the man Russell Martin very
Yeah,
well,
I do.
being a Swansea fan. I'm not certain, but they may surprise us this year. Again, like I've said, it's kind of the case of somebody has to finish there,
Yeah,
and as with the Championship, as I mentioned a lot of times, I just see there being much stronger sides above them. And then my 18th is Nottingham Forest. They kind of skirted with it a bit last year. They obviously had the points deduction. In terms of their summer transfer window, the big one is Elliot Anderson from Newcastle for
yeah,
35 million. Now, does he warrant that price tag as well? Probably a bit of
Probably
English
not.
tax there, bit
Yeah,
of English tax, bit of Premier League rival tax in a way. I think Stamenic from Red Star Belgrade is a good signing for 4.6 mil. I've watched some of his highlights in the past. I know that he's quite a cult hero in like Football Manager and stuff like that. So could he end up being a cult hero for Forest in real life? In terms of the ones who have left, some big players for them last year, such as Felipe, Scott McKenna, Kiate. Obviously, Forest known for their big overhauls every summer,
yeah,
and they sing like 20 signings every time. A lot of players leaving. Obviously, the big loans for them last year, such as Reina and Origi, back to their parent clubs. But yeah, I think he'll be just they just won't have enough. Um, I just don't see Forest staying up this year.
yeah. Well, for my bottom three, I have put Southampton bottom. I didn't want
Hmm.
to, but as you said, someone's got to finish last. And for me, I just think the way Russell Martin plays football, and you got to commend him for it because he will stick with it. I
Yeah,
just don't think for the players they have at the moment, they are going to survive. Obviously, it's quite a brave style of football, a very risky style of football, especially when you get up to the Premier League and you kind of come up against the likes of Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool, Man United, week in, week out with other great quality clubs in there as well. I just don't think Southampton are really going to have done enough to stay up.
yeah,
I mean, their business in the transfer window has been really good, I'd say. Ronnie Edwards, a brilliant signing. Obviously, not proven really in the Championship or Premier League yet, but I think he's definitely a good player for the future. Same with Nathan Wood. I think that's a good signing from Swansea. Flynn Downs. I think Russell Martin loves Flynn Downs. He signed him at Swansea. Um,
yeah,
I think he would have signed him permanently last season if he could, but getting him on loan was probably the best they were going to do. But he was really happy to get him back at the club. So I think, unfortunately, it's just not going to be enough for Southampton to stay up in the league. Just the style of football, I don't think they've got the right players for that yet, and probably won't for a little while. I think Russell Martin could also potentially be maybe the first managerial casualty of the season. I think Enzo
yeah.
Maresca has to be up there as well for that, but we'll get onto that a little bit later. In 19th, this might surprise a few people, but I have gone for Ipswich Town to finish
Oh,
19th.
okay,
I don't
okay.
see them staying in the league. I mean, in terms of the transfers they brought in, Amari Hutchinson, really talented player, but lacks Premier League experience. Ben Johnson, again, good Premier League player, but didn't feature a great deal for West Ham, but he has got some Premier League experience. And their other transfers, Connor Townsend, I think he's had one season in the Premier League with West Brom. Liam Delap, Jacob Greaves, and Arianet Muric. Now
I think
Muric struggled.
you look at the price paid for Delap as well is a
Yeah,
lot.
it is quite a lot, and I think they have gone quite overboard potentially on some transfers, a bit like Burnley last season compared to
Mm.
Luton, who were a bit more reserved in the prices they paid and also who they brought in. But I feel Greaves, Delap, and Muric last season he did struggle at times in the Premier League, especially with Vincent Kompany's style of football, playing out from the back, being a goalkeeper good with his feet. He did get subbed off at half time once. I'm not sure if that was when they were in the Championship or when they were in the Premier League. But Delap and Greaves, talented players, but for the Premier League, I don't think so. And as well with obviously McKenna being linked with moves away, maybe if Maresca doesn't get a good start, how much time is he gonna get before he gets sacked? Ten Hag potentially as well. If he doesn't go well, how long before he gets sacked? And then I'm sure clubs will be coming in for Kieran McKenna. And whilst he's at the club, I think maybe they do have a better chance of survival. But if he gets poached, I don't see Ipswich staying up just because I don't see them getting a manager in as good as McKenna, or maybe someone who can click with the team like McKenna has because he's been there for a few years. A lot of the players have stayed the same. So for me, I just don't think Ipswich are going to have done enough. And my final team going down in 18th, I have gone for Brentford. I just think it is their time to go, even if Ivan Toney stays. I just don't think he's quite the player he was. But as well, you're looking at their transfers. They've brought in 2 players so far: Igor Thiago from Club Bruges and Julian Eystone as a free transfer. So I'm not really familiar with who Julian Eystone is. I don't know who he is. Igor Thiago, he is a good player, but again, how well will he suit the Premier League? I don't know. But for me, I think Brentford, it is their time to go. They struggled a bit last season, and I think that will just continue.
Yeah, well, following on from that, Brentford are my 17th, and they are one of those teams who I feel like will be in that relegation battle all year. I said it to you before we came on air. I feel like their Premier League survival is so dependent on Tony staying. He's such a big player, and now it's like the case of if he now goes, will they have enough time to reinvest that money? It's like, who else can they bring in to fill that void? I feel like they might just have enough to stay up. They've probably got a bit more Premier League nous than the other teams around them. Famous for their good Friday night and Monday night wins at home on Sky, of course. So probably could pull a few more of them out. But yeah, I feel like they will be teetering around there. But on paper, I feel like their squad is better than the sides below them. I won't spend too much time on these lower division teams because we haven't got a whole lot of time with this recording today. But I've gone for Everton in 16th. Again, Sean Dyche, brilliant manager in stopping goals going in the net. Most clean sheets last season with Jordan Pickford. Had a good Euros campaign. He's not going anywhere. And he is the perfect match with Sean Dyche in terms of not conceding goals. Bringing in Tim Irogbuna.
Irabegum.
I don't even know how you say his name.
I
know he's a good player though.
Yeah, I think it's Irabegum. I think I have no idea, but I think.
Yeah.
Tim.
Either way, I've seen him play. Yeah, I've seen him play, so I know he's a good player. And then Onana going the other way to Villa, good piece of business there, getting 50 million for him. Yeah. So I feel like Everton will have enough to survive this year. And then finally 15th, I have gone for Ipswich because I think they will be the surprise package and they'll do what Luton couldn't last year and surprise a lot of people. I'm not actually sure if it would be that much of a surprise if Ipswich stayed up because I've seen a lot of people predicting them to do quite well. But yeah, like you said, Hutchinson, great piece of business from Chelsea, and just releasing some of the older players and squad players like Aluko and Kamara who just didn't need to be there anymore. Of course, heard Ipswich rumoured with Sammy Schmodix and Jack Clark. So if either of them take off, that would be brilliant. Not sure if it's, as we keep saying, a bit late in the window now. I don't know, there's still a little bit of time because we're recording this on the 12th. So a week until the start of the season and another, 18 days until the end of the transfer window?
Yeah. 19 days.
What do you think about that? Do you reckon either Schmodix or Jack Clark will make the move?
I think if either of them two are going to make a move, it's probably more going to be Schmodix than Clark. I think.
Yeah, I agree.
I think Clark is quite happy at Sunderland. I'm not saying Schmodix isn't happy at Blackburn. I think he'd be very happy to stay there. But I think when you look at the opportunity he might have to get to play Premier League football, I think at the moment Ipswich is probably his best chance for that. I'm surprised that Everton haven't
I agree.
come in for him. Yeah, I think obviously, I think
that seems like it'd be a perfect move for him. They need goals as well. So
if you've seen any social media with Still Ryan, obviously him and Sammy have become quite good mates.
Absolutely loves it. So
and he's been hanging around with some of the Everton lads, playing COD with them online. I've seen it on TikTok in the past, and I think I thought at one point I thought that was like an Agent Ryan getting him in the Everton squad, but unfortunately that hasn't materialised yet. But I think Sammy Smodix is more than likely to move on.
All right, give us your 17th to 15th.
Right, 17th to 15th. I'll rattle through these because we've kind of discussed these clubs a little bit already. In 17th, I've gone for Brighton.
Okay, wow,
Now,
that is
I
rogue.
just, I think last season under De Zerbi, you could kind of see them struggling a little bit. They had a good start to the season,
Yeah,
looked strong. Evan Ferguson,
yeah,
the Irish striker, yeah, he looked really quite
yeah,
good,
yeah,
but
yeah.
then he got injured, and then after that, they kind of just crumbled a bit. And also their new manager, the way he plays football, it's quite attacking. It's usually like three defenders, seven forwards, no midfield. And I just think if that's the way you're going to play, it might work in Germany, but I don't think it's going to work in the Premier League. 16th, I've gone for Leicester. Steve Cooper coming in there. Steve Cooper, I rate him quite highly, obviously, former Swansea manager. He kept Nottingham Forest in the Premier League when they were having a very tough season. So I think he'll do the same with Leicester. I think that Leicester squad is better than what he had at Nottingham Forest. Obviously, there's some good key players still there, like Ricardo Pereira, Wout Fez, Hermansen, their goalkeeper, Jamie Vardy, obviously. Uh,
Could be his last season too.
could be his last season as well. Leicester players have just left my head. Patson Daka is still
Yeah.
there. Castagna, I think, is still there as well. So, they've still got some good players from that Premier League squad that was in the Premier League before. So I think for them, they'll be fine. And 15th, I've gone for Nottingham Forest. I think Nuno Espirito Santo, again, I think he's a good manager. And I think now Nottingham Forest have kind of had a couple of seasons to acclimatise to the Premier League. Those players are getting a bit more familiar. As you said, they've made some good signings. So I think 15th is where they'll finish.
Okay, moving swiftly on, I've gone for Bournemouth in 14th. Now, I don't think they'll be at threat of relegation, but
Yeah,
not an incredibly exciting window from them.
yeah,
Enisu now, permanent now from Getafe, and Sinistera from Leeds, another permanent, but they're kind of people we knew would be going there anyway.
yeah,
And then the other two signings for them, Paulson and Jebison. So not the most incredible window so far. However, they have just got 65 million from Dom Solanke leaving.
yeah,
So will this Bournemouth prediction bite me? Because they could well slide down the table without those goals. I don't
yeah,
know. I feel like they looked like they were playing some really nice football last year come the end. I don't know whether or not that is because they had Dom to finish off the goals. Who are they going to bring in to replace him? Another good question. So Bournemouth in 14th, but yeah, I feel like they'll be okay. And their manager obviously did wonders there last year.
yeah,
Iraola, as Jack well knows, we'll get
yeah.
his predictions later on. Don't know if he's got him in the Champions League or not. But then 13th, gone for Fulham. Just a solid season. No threat of relegation. Don't see them looking for Europe. I feel like that's what these teams in the mid-table are kind of all about. In terms of Fulham's transfers, brought back Sessegnon on a free. Great move. He
Yeah,
needs that to reignite his career. Knows Fulham. Played really well there before. Seems like the perfect move. Emile Smith-Rowe is an absolutely brilliant piece of business.
it is class business.
That is one of my signings of the window, without doubt, because he is such a class player who was just underappreciated at Arsenal, but purely just because they had Martinelli and Saka and
Yeah,
Trossard. Like, come the end, it
and
was
the
just kind of
injuries as
like,
well.
yeah, exactly. It's kind of just like, well, like you'd want to see him play more, but he just couldn't fit in the team. So, I mean, the move needed to come. I still feel like he's higher quality than Fulham, but this could well just end up being a bit of a stepping stone move for him if he ends up doing well and then gets a move maybe abroad or to one of the like Champions League threatening clubs. Like I could see him go to like a Villa or a Newcastle. Newcastle was
Yeah,
always the one that I like polished him for, but never came off. And then Paulinho going to Bayern for 47 million. That could be a big miss for them because he was
yeah,
good in the midfield last year. But yeah, Fulham, I see them having a solid season. And yeah, is that it? No, Palace in 12th. That's my last one here.
yeah,
Palace finished 12th every year. And I see it being no different this year. They always seem to just be solid. They've got great home form. Ismail Assar from Marseille, strengthening. I could see Eze just kicking on this year. He takes everything for Palace, corners, free kicks, pens, and he's class at all of them. Elise going to Bayern, of course, for 60 million. Good money there. I feel like that's good
Yeah.
money. And we haven't necessarily seen it reinvested yet, but never know. Still time in the window, but Palace are my 12th, yeah.
Okay, so my 14th, I've gone for Everton. I would have
Yep.
put them higher, but I just feel there are teams that are still a bit better than them.
Yeah.
So that's why I've gone for 14th. I don't think they're going to be in any danger of relegation unless more points deductions come their way, which hopefully
Never know. Yeah,
they
never know.
don't, and those points deductions head Chelsea and Man City's way. But
Definitely City.
definitely City, or definitely Chelsea as well. Come on. And then so anyway,
Yeah.
13th, I've gone for Bournemouth. I think losing Solanke will be it will have quite some impact on the squad. Obviously, they brought in Unal. They did bring in some young defender from Juventus, who I can't quite remember his name. Dean Huyson. I think that's a good bit of business, especially for the future. I think he's only like 18, 19 years old. So for them, good bit of business there. But losing Solanke, I think it's a chance for the likes of Unal and Semenyo. He's normally naturally a winger, I'd say, but he can play as a striker. But I think it's a chance for
Yeah.
them to step up. And 12th, I've gone Crystal Palace. And
Yeah.
same as my reason for
Finish 12th
Everton,
every year.
I just think they could finish higher, but I just think the teams above them are just too good for them. Again, I think good bit of business getting Kamada in. Obviously, he knows
Yeah.
Oliver Glasner well, who really did well with Palace at the end of the season. They had a really good run. I think they actually got to 10th in the Premier League, matching their joint highest finish. Then Ismail Assar for £7 million. That is brilliant. I think that's an absolute steal, considering
Yeah.
how highly rated he was at Watford. Didn't do so well in the Championship, but then went out to Marseille, did well over there, and now he's back in the Premier League.
Yeah, so in 11th place, I've gone for Brighton. Now, this is where our predictions are starting to have a bit of a
Yeah,
what's it called? Like disparity. There we go. They finished 11th last year, and I don't really see that the squad has got any worse or better necessarily. Not really any notable absences. Gross has gone to Borussia Dortmund, Buonanotte off to Leicester on loan, but then most of the other players you look there are just free transfers or loans. They brought in Yankumba Minte from Newcastle.
yeah,
Don't claim to know a lot about him, but if they're paying 33 million for him, they are rating him highly. But
yeah,
the squad they've got on paper, I feel like the attacking wise, and as you said, they've got such an attacking manager. Like you look at the likes of like Sarmiento, Simmer, Ferguson, João Pedro's injured, still got the like Mitoma and Welbeck. I really don't see them struggling. And Valentin Barco, brilliant player, great for your fantasy teams. 4 million, very attacking player who will be probably playing at left back. Still got the likes of Gilmore and Tyreek Lamptey. Estepinan's injured, I know, to start the season, but he's still a great player. And Dunk, obviously, great at the back. They finished 11th last year. I see them doing it again. No Europe this year. And they've had a great preseason. I've just looked and they've won all 4 of their preseason games. So who knows? I mean, they could end up pushing higher, or maybe you're right and they'll be down the bottom. We'll see in May. 10th, I've gone for West Ham. I think it'll be another solid season for them. They've finished in Europe. They did great in the Conference League. Made it to the quarterfinals of was it last year? The quarterfinals of the Europa League, I believe.
yeah, it was, yeah.
And then in terms of their transfer window, they have brought in Max Kilman from Wolves, of course, big one there for 40 million.
Yeah.
Whether or not he's worth that again, English tax, rival tax, as we've mentioned already. But he's a good centre back, obviously. Tadibo is on loan from Nice. Obviously renowned for years for being a great wonder kid on FIFA and Football Manager, and has done pretty well in the French league as well. Somerville from Leeds is a big signing for West Ham. They love a good pacey winger, and he will continue that trend. Still got the likes of Bowen, of course.
Yeah.
Fulkrug from Dortmund is an interesting one. So they've paid 27 mil for him. I feel like he'll have one of 2 seasons. Like I think he might hit the ground running, score like 4 in his first 3, and then just not score for the next 10 games, or he'll just be really consistent and like every other game pop up with a goal. So that would be an interesting one. Big striker there. Bit of a late Andy Carroll replacement almost for West Ham there. I can
Yeah,
see him being a
almost.
bit like that. And yeah, I see West Ham having a pretty solid 10th place. And then in ninth, I've gone for Wolves. Now, a lot at the start of last year, myself included, a lot of people were putting them to go down. Got to take my hat off to Gary O'Neill. He has earned
What a
my
mega
respect.
job. Mega
What a
job.
job he's done. A good transfer window as well. Tommy Doyle from City for only 4 million,
Yeah.
brilliant. And Pedro Lima from Sport Recife. I've seen his highlights and he looks class. Getting 50 million for Pedro Neto off to Chelsea and 40 million for Max Kilman off to West Ham. Both seem like quite good bits of business. I read Pedro Neto's Instagram post yesterday. He seems so sad to be leaving. Like I felt quite bad for him.
Yeah,
But I reckon Wolves could have a bit of a push. Like they could be pushing for Europe this year. So I've just
potentially,
slotted
yeah.
them in there. Slotted them in there at ninth.
Okay, so my 11th, I've gone for Chelsea. I just see it as another season
The
of struggle
fall
for
off.
them. Yeah, I just see it as another struggling season. Their pre-season hasn't gone well. I mean, they lost, was it 4-1 to Celtic?
Yeah, I think so.
4-2
Yeah.
to Man City.
Yeah.
Not drew 2-2 with Wrexham. I know pre-season's pre-season, but again, if you look at the manner of the results, it just wasn't good. I don't think Enzo Maresca is quite at that stage where he can be going to manage Chelsea. Obviously, he did well at Man City's youth academy, did well with
Yeah.
Leicester last year. But again, I just think Chelsea, they've got too many players. And at that point, that is
They have
when,
got a hell of a lot of players, yeah.
and you'd think you could never have enough players, obviously, with along the way seasons are now. But I
How are
think
they all
that
going to
is,
gel?
yeah, how they're going to gel. And I think that is their downfall, really. Just too many players and maybe a manager lacking a bit in experience. In 10th place, I have gone for Wolves. I think it's going to be an improvement on last season. They fell away a little bit at the end of last season, but I've seen some of their pre-season highlights and they look
Oh,
really
that one
strong.
goal.
Yeah,
Do you know the goal? Yeah.
yeah.
Oof,
They look really,
cooking.
really strong.
Mm.
Obviously, Hwang Hee-chan's still there.
Yeah.
Mateus Cunha's still there. Really key players for them. And obviously, you touched on the signings they've made. And also getting in 90 million for Neto and Kilman combined, whether that's reinvested into the squad or reinvested into other areas, because Wolves have been struggling financially in the last few years. But
Yeah.
yeah, 10th place for Wolves. And in ninth, I have gone Fulham. I think obviously a bit of a dip last year, had a good first season on their return to the Premier League. But I think signing the likes of Emil Smith Rowe, definitely going to be a key player there. Ryan Sessegnon, hopefully he can come back to Fulham and revitalise his career. Rodrigo Muniz, a brilliant season last year for him. Didn't do so well at
Yeah.
Middlesbrough the season before, but really came into his own. He's now got the number 9. Seems to be firing on all cylinders at the moment. So Fulham, I think, could be potentially challenging for Europe, but just not quite
Bit of
there
a
yet.
dark horse.
Yeah, bit
Yeah.
of a dark horse.
In eighth place, I've gone for Newcastle. So a little bit of a fall off from recent seasons.
Yeah,
Obviously, they had that good finishing fourth for the Champions League campaign. I still think they've had a pretty good transfer window. Lloyd Kelly on a free will be some good squad depth for them. Lewis Hall for 28 million looks like quite an astute signing. Obviously, they've still got the likes of Livramento. It looks like Trippier may well be off to Saudi. So that remains to be seen. That would be a big loss for them, I think, because
yeah,
he's obviously such a commanding figure there at the back. But yeah, I mean, the squad they've got on paper, good starting fixtures as well. Looks like Isak may be one of like the most picked players on fantasy due to the fact he's just like a cheaper alternative to Haaland. Good start fixtures and just guaranteed goals. Getting 35 million for Anderson looks like good business, I think,
yeah.
as we said, just for that English tax alone. As I said, I've already mentioned, don't know a lot about Minter, but 33 million to Brighton. And then just releasing a lot of the players who were probably just taking up wages, like the likes of Karius, Paul Dummett, Matt Ritchie, Jeff Hendrick. It's like the old generation of Newcastle players, isn't it? It's like
Kellen
those are
Watts.
the type, yeah, those are the type of players you'd associate with like Championship Newcastle. So
Yeah,
yeah, I feel like this would be just another pretty solid season for them. May well have another deep run in one of the cups. I could see them making it to like a Carabao or FA Cup quarter or semi-final, maybe even another final.
Yeah.
But yeah, just a solid season for Newcastle, finishing 8th. I have gone for Chelsea in 7th, purely just because they had such a good end to last season, and just because the start was really poor, that's
Yeah.
kind of what scuppered them a bit. I think the likes of Nkunku will be really vital for them this year.
Yeah.
Cole Palmer obviously had an unbelievable campaign come the end, and will still be really, really vital for them. As you say, on paper, their squad has got depth everywhere. Obviously, now bringing in Pedro Neto, Keenan Dewsbury Hall. It looks like Gallagher will probably be off to Atletico Madrid.
Yeah.
But I mean, with that squad that Chelsea have got, the amount of money that they've thrown into it, they really should be competing for Champions League.
They should be.
Whether
Yeah.
or not, whether or not that will come off, just because, as we said, Enzo Maresca was a bit of a risky managerial appointment, but I mean, who else are you going to bring in now? They've already had
True.
Pochettino, and he's one of the ones who would have probably been rumoured with it if not. Adebayo from Fulham on a free, really good signing. Not actually spending money on a player for once.
Oh no.
But I saw like a list the other day of all of the Chelsea Academy products that have gone on to play for the teams, and it's like some people were quote tweeting it saying that it's better than their current squad, like the players they've sold,
Yeah.
which is just hilarious. But yeah, Chelsea in 7th for me, giving themselves an outside chance of Europe. And then in 6th place, I've gone for Aston Villa, who had obviously a brilliant season last year, will be in the Champions League this year, and I've just had they've had a good window as well. So it's hard to kind of say that they'll fall off from last year, but I just feel like the other teams above them have obviously got stronger.
Yeah.
Onana, obviously a good player. We've already mentioned him leaving Everton. 50 million, big price tag. Do you think he's worth it necessarily? It's hard to tell.
I don't know. I mean, in this day and age, players,
Yeah.
players. I think the transfer market is a bit more like players will be valued higher just purely because of the way the transfer market's gone. But I don't know. I think he's probably brought in as a replacement to Douglas Luiz, but is he quite a
Yeah.
Douglas Luiz replacement? I
It's
don't
hard to
think
tell.
so. Yeah, but only time will tell with him really.
Yeah, obviously Diaby going off to Saudi, Douglas Luiz, as you just mentioned, to Juventus. That could be quite a big miss because he was such a commanding figure in that midfield. We see the likes of Maatsen coming in from Chelsea. He's one player we didn't
Yeah.
just mention with Chelsea. Does look like a good signing, to be fair. Quite
Yeah.
quick. And then Philogene from Hull, undoubtedly talented, scoring one of the arguably what's it called, the Puskas Award,
Yeah.
potentials
Goals of the
last year for
season.
Hull. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So, yeah, Aston Villa. It was hard to predict them to fall off because it looks like they've only really strengthened from last year, except for the likes of Diaby and Luis. But 6th place, obviously got the Champions League campaign. Different this year with the fact that it's the league phase as opposed to the group stages. So, will they have enough depth to compete on both fronts? Only time will tell. So you're 8th now.
My eighth. I have gone for Newcastle. The same.
Yeah.
I think it'll be another slight drop-off season for them. Purely because the teams above them have got better as well. But
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
it will still be a good season. Like you were saying, they've also got Isak, very natural goal scorer. Anthony Gordon had such a good season last year. I mean, I wasn't much of a fan of him, but last year really made me change my opinion of him. He seems a really nice, grounded lad, and also I feel that's helping him on the pitch as well.
Yeah.
He was
Heavily rumoured with
touted.
Liverpool this summer.
Yeah, I know that would have been a crazy transfer if that had gone through. But also looking at some of the other transfers Newcastle have made, John Ruddy, bit of a strange one there.
Bit of an outlandish one.
Probably the
Squad
weirdest
depth.
outlandish transfer of the window.
It's
Also,
like Tom Heaton to Man United a few years ago.
yeah, Will Osula. I quite like that transfer. I think
Yes.
young
I
Danish
did
forward
mention that one.
from Sheffield United. I think he's got potential to kind of be a good backup to Isak, especially with Callum Wilson being so injury prone as he is, and Callum Wilson unfortunately not getting any younger.
Yeah.
But when he's fit, he still scores goals. So they've still got a good player there. Obviously, as you touched on, Lewis Hall coming in, brilliant bit of business. I think he was a loan to buy in the first place. But yeah, Trippier could be on his way to Saudi. That'd be a big for them, just purely because he's their captain. So they'll be losing a natural leader in the team. And also Miguel Almiron, a player who's been so key and so loved by the supporters as well over the last few years, could be on his way out, potentially.
He's playing like Almiron.
Potentially another Saudi move for him as well. And then in 7th place, I've gone for Aston Villa. I just think with the Champions League, similar to Newcastle, I think they'll go further in the Champions League. I mean, Newcastle probably could have last year, but their group did not do them any favours, having Dortmund, PSG and Milan. But I think if Villa get a bit of a kind...
Absolute death.
Yeah, if Villa get a kind of group, I think they could go further. Again, good business. They brought in Lewis Dobbin, I saw from Everton. Probably that was to when Premier League clubs were helping each other out with financial fair play. Also, Enzo Berenkia from Juventus, don't know how you pronounce that. Samuel Illing Jr. as well. I quite like that as a signing. He seems quite a good young English talent. England under 21s as well. Ross Barkley, good to see him back at the club. Obviously, had a good season with Luton last year.
Good squad.
Really quite key for them. Cameron Archer, another one, returning after a year away. And then for 6th, I've gone for West Ham. I really like West Ham this season. I mean, they've got Julian Lopetegui, who is a good manager, brilliant manager. And as you were saying, the transfer business they've done so far this season, obviously bringing in the likes of Max Kilman, brilliant defender. Nicholas Krug had a good Euros, I'd say, was quite talked about, did quite well for Germany. I think he's probably
he had a pretty good season at Dortmund as well. It's just I don't know how he's gonna adjust to the Prem, because like I've seen a lot of people talking about his like tracking back and running back and comparing it to like Lukaku, for example, who just cannot run at all. So it'll be interesting to see. Wish him all the best.
Yeah, maybe he's more the kind of player, you bring on last minute, you need a last minute equaliser, last minute winner. But I'd probably say their standout transfer to me is probably Crescencio Somerville. I think, obviously, with him being rumoured with the likes of Liverpool and other clubs more up the Premier League, I think it's nice to see him go to somewhere like West Ham, because I think when you go to a big club like Liverpool, Man United, Tottenham, Arsenal, City, Chelsea, you can kind of lose yourself really quite quickly. And I think then the scrutiny will be on you because you've gone to this big club and all the spotlight's on them. But I feel him going to West Ham will just allow him to still be himself and he can still be the player he wants to be. Probably just, So, a really good signing for West Ham and a good move for him as well. And obviously, as you touched on, Jean-Claude Todibo, a brilliant signing.
Yeah. So is that into our 5th to... Well, we'll do 5th to the top of the table. We might as well.
Top 5.
Go all the way through now. Yeah.
The big 5.
So the top 5, I've gone for Spurs in 5th. I mean, a pretty good transfer winner, to be fair. Not necessarily for any other reason than, like we said before, the teams above them are stronger. Archgrave from Leeds, great signing. Seems like this could be the perfect time for a move for him. Whether or not he'll start every game or start getting like more Premier League experience as he comes along. But yeah, seems like that's the perfect time for him to come in. Still young, still raw, and can develop with like the other players around him, the elder players at the club. Solanke from Bournemouth for 65 million is really interesting. I feel like if they had been anywhere below 50, like around 50 below, nobody would be even questioning it, because they'd be like, oh, it's proven Premier League goals, English striker, whatever. But 65 million is quite a lot. So whether or not he'll live up to that remains to be seen. Obviously, it took him a little while to get firing at Bournemouth after that initial transfer from Liverpool, and then proved it in the Championship, proved it in the Prem last year. So you can see exactly why they want to bring him in. Is he the Harry Kane replacement, finally?
Potentially.
yeah, remains to be seen. Obviously, Ange is at the wheel still. Doesn't look to be going anywhere.
No,
Had a pretty solid season last year. So, yeah, I could just see Spurs being in and amongst it, but just like not having enough. Like for example, like as I mentioned in the Championship one, when I put them against the teams that are above them, like in the matchups, like I say, are Spurs versus Liverpool, Spurs versus Arsenal, like example, I just see the other teams coming out on top. So
yeah,
Spurs in fifth for me. Who's your fifth place? We'll take it now.
I've actually gone for Liverpool.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
I think just purely because I think there'll be a little bit of an adjustment to Arne Slot compared to Jurgen Klopp. You know, obviously there is a difference in style of play.
Yeah.
So I think it will just take maybe a little bit more time to get
Well,
used
they haven't
to.
signed anyone.
No, they
They
haven't,
haven't
and I
signed
think
anyone, so
that is a big thing as well. If they don't sign anyone, then obviously that will hold them back because when Tottenham didn't sign anyone a few years ago, I think that did hold them back a little bit.
yeah.
Well, actually, thinking about it, that was 6 years ago now, so that's quite scary to think about.
Yeah,
But
that niche knowledge is coming out.
the only season when we had a stupid transfer window ending on the 19th of August, like, we did. But anyway, yeah, Liverpool. I just think not signing anyone. Obviously, I think Arne Slot's prepared to give young players a chance. Obviously, we've seen over pre-season the likes of Jarrell Quansah.
Yeah.
There was a 17-year-old who scored yesterday. Could not tell you his name, but
I'll try and find it.
yeah,
Connor
I think
Bradley obviously looks to be
Connor
doing pretty well
Bradley,
in pre-season.
Jaden Dans. Obviously, he was roomed with Argyle, but now
Yeah.
injured. Obviously, got Ben Doak
Yeah.
as well, a player who was
The
kind of
17-year-old was called Trey Neoni.
training on it. Yeah, so I mean,
Yeah.
like if players like that are going to be given opportunity, it's all good. But at the same
Well, they've
time,
had a good pre-season. They've won all
yeah,
four of their pre-season games, so that's pretty solid.
but yeah, I think Liverpool for fifth for me.
Yeah. I have then gone for Manchester United in fourth.
Nice.
My Premier League club. But yeah, I mean, obviously last year in the end, lucky to get any European competition after
Mm.
finishing eighth. It all came down to it, and in the end, managed to pull it out their arse in the FA Cup final. Looked pretty solid from what I saw from the highlights of the Community Shield game. Unfortunately, was not
Yeah,
able to watch that one, but obviously took the lead, had quite a lot of chances, and it was only really like Rashford had those two great chances. Obviously, ended up losing on penalties from Mr. Accidentally became important in his job, Johnny Evans. How on earth he's still starting for Man United is beyond me, but looks like that may be finally put to bed with the two players who are coming in. We've got obviously Lenny Yoro came in, but then instantly got injured, which was
yeah,
really annoying. 52 million for him, I don't think is a bad piece of business at all, considering his
no,
age and all the hype that comes around him. Xerxes from Bologna, again, another good like backup rotation player with Hoyland, and now again Hoyland's got injured, so looks like he will be the one to start the season. Haven't really seen much from him in preseason. I don't know if he's played any preseason games for
mm.
Man United because of the Euros, so whether or not he will start him against Fulham will be really interesting to see. Probably won't, but I reckon he'll come on for his debut in that game.
Yeah,
And then it's more about the signings that haven't been made yet. Delit and Matsurawi both in Manchester for their medicals today, supposedly, which would both be great signings depending on how much you pay for them. Obviously, United in recent history, kind of now under Jim Ratcliffe, trying to get away from that era of heavily overspending for players. So
I think I saw
hopefully,
Delict about
yeah,
40 odd million. I think, which I
yeah.
think is a
And I
really
think
good price.
yeah, that is like a really solid signing. He's still only 25, but which is crazy to think considering the
Yeah,
experience he's had. So for Ajax, Juventus, and Barcelona, it's like, and wait, is it and Bayern Munich? He's currently at, isn't it?
yeah.
Did he play for Barca actually? I might
No, I
be
don't think
might
he
be
did
lying.
play for Barca. I think he was linked with them,
Sorry,
but
got that confused with Bayern Munich. Sorry, it's the BA. But obviously that's where he's coming from now. Same with Max Rowie, so they will both be good signings. Getting Mason Greenwood off the books, great idea, just to
yeah,
save any controversy. Get him gone. You've got 22 million for him as well. He's off. He's out of our minds, out of our hair. Finally getting rid of Donny van der Beek. Thank God for his sake as well.
Yeah,
It's crazy the amount that has cost the club. Martial finally going. Good riddance as well. Again, just costing so much in wages. Like, it's not a surprise that no club has picked him up because he has such crazy wage demands.
yeah,
And then obviously, haven't even mentioned the players who are still at the club. The man who's on the back of my shirt now, absolute breakthrough year last year. Kobe Mainu,
yeah.
really good Euros as well. Um, whether or not he should be starting every game at such a young age, like, will it take its toll on him? Obviously, he should be in terms of like ability, but in terms of
Yeah.
taking its toll on him at such a young age, and there's so much pressure on him. Poor boy, but good luck. Fernandez in there looks like he's going to stay and actually sign a new deal now as well, which is so pivotal considering he's club captain. So yeah, anyway, I've been waffling about United. They're my fourth place. How about you?
My fourth place, I've gone for Tottenham. I think it's going to be. They were so close last year,
Yeah,
and I think now a second season into the Ange era, I think they'll have a stronger season. And I think Champions League football is there for them. Tottenham return to the Champions League will be good to see
yeah,
because obviously a few years ago they were quite there quite regularly.
yeah,
With Mauricio Pochettino, obviously that brilliant semi-final clash with Ajax. Well, they won it in injury time. Lucas Moura, brilliant,
yeah.
brilliant times for Tottenham, and hopefully for them it's heading back that way.
Yeah, sorry, excuse my waffling about Man United there. Won't speak for so long about my third place in Liverpool. Undoubtedly got a brilliant squad on paper despite the fact they've got no new signings. As you said, will be really interesting to see how Arne Slot can do, whether or not his style of play will bring back the glory days there. Obviously, Klopp leaving will take some time for the club to adjust, but I still feel like with the squad they've got on paper, it's just really hard to look beyond them doing
Yeah.
well this year. And so, yeah, Liverpool in my third place.
My third place, I have gone for Manchester United. I think
Yeah,
it's going to be much improved this year. Obviously, like you said, they did well in the Community Shield the other day. Unfortunate to lose on penalties. I think Delict is a brilliant, brilliant bit of business from United. Same with Lenny Yora as well. Unfortunately, he got injured, but I think when he comes back,
yeah,
again, I think he'll do really, really well, especially since he's only
really good for the
18.
future. Yeah,
And also, as well, the fact that he turned down Real Madrid to come to Man United, I think that just says
yeah. The
just says a
Banter
lot.
Club era is ending, hopefully.
Yeah, says a lot. Also, as well, I think a bit of business in terms of coaching staff, bringing in Ruud van Nistelrooy.
Yeah,
Again, I think that's fantastic for, especially for the whole club, but also the forwards as well at the club, having someone who won Premier League titles with Man United, who's
yeah.
been top goal scorer across Europe throughout his career. I think that can only benefit the club in that sense.
Now, my top two, I remember at the end of last season, I was saying, "Oh, I'm finally going to predict Arsenal to win the league this year," but I just can't. Like the fact that it's Pep Guardiola's last season, I have gone for Arsenal second and City top. Supposedly Pep's last year. I just feel like if it is, there's no way he's going to demand any less than going out on a title.
Yeah,
And yeah, unfortunately, I feel like they will be doing is it five in a row now? I'm pretty sure.
could be five,
Scary.
could be. I
Yeah.
don't think it's quite got to six, but no, I think it will be five. Yeah, it's five.
Yeah, it's really scary. Just that they're just still way too strong on paper.
Mm.
Not really done any business they haven't really needed to. Got rid of Taylor Harwood-Bellis, Tommy Doyle, Liam Delap, just all young players who just can't break into that team. Brought in Salvinho from Troyes, and obviously
Right.
Calvin Phillips now back after his loan from West Ham. But they haven't really needed to do any business, obviously, because
No.
that squad is clearly title winning already. Again, scary to think that Haaland is still so young and he's going to be this good for this many years. Maybe next year, but not this year. I can't predict anybody else other to win the league. I'll give a mention to Arsenal, obviously, whilst we're here. still will have a great season. I think Calafiori looks to be a good piece of business.
Yeah,
Obviously, David Raya signing on a permanent, we kind of assumed that was going to be happening. Getting rid of Emile Smith-Rowe. It's a shame because I thought he was going to have a good long career at Arsenal, but they've just got too many other good wingers. And then in terms of getting rid of other players like El Neni's finally been released, Cedric Suarez, and then loads of young players being released. So yeah, I feel like this season it's just going to be another one of those nearly ones for Arteta. Like maybe he might get one over him next year if Pep leaves, but
yeah.
whilst Pep's at City, I just can't predict anybody else to win the league.
Now, I wanted to do Arsenal because I think I did it last year, but I don't think anyone can beat City again. I think this is Arsenal's best chance too, because I don't think City this year do look as strong as they have in the past. Julian Alvarez on his way out to Atletico
Yeah,
Madrid, and I think potentially that could come back to bite them because if Haaland gets injured, then where's your striker gone? You sold Liam Delap. You know, if
who
Julian
is their
Alvarez
backup
goes,
striker then other than Julian Alvarez? Let's have a look.
I to be honest, I
Yeah,
couldn't
that's what I'm
tell
saying.
you.
I wouldn't be able to name it off the top of my head. I mean, yeah, arguably not even Oscar Bob because he's a winger. Salvio's a left winger, so it's
Yeah,
interesting.
exactly.
It's
Like
interesting
when
because clearly Alvarez is like, I can't imagine they'd want to get rid of him necessarily. It's like, I think,
no,
I'm pretty sure it's on his end. He wants more first team football, doesn't he? So,
yeah, and I mean,
yeah,
I don't think you can blame him for wanting to move on. Also, Edison as well, potentially leaving on his way over to Saudi
yeah,
Arabia. That could be quite big, especially as the transfer window's coming to an end. Who would they get in to replace him? But at the same
yeah,
time, it's Manchester City, well, more than 5 times, 7-time Premier League winners now. I think, if they came calling, I think you'd go. Someone would go running. But I think in Stefan
yeah,
Ortega, they do have a good goalkeeper,
yeah,
and it'd be quite nice to see him get a chance. And that would mean Scott Carson will be promoted to the number 2 goalkeeper, which for
what
him,
a boy.
yeah, he'd be finally getting some work in. But yeah,
Yeah.
City just too strong for me.
Yeah, well, we don't have a lot of time left on this recording, but as with last episode, I will be getting up our other predictions from the friends of the channel. So if I can share my screen with you here, Xander, let's see if I can get, yes, here we go.
Oh,
There we go. We're on to the Google Drive again. So starting off, we have Ben Goddard's Premier League predictions here. Similar to us, he has gone for City, Arsenal, and then same as me, Liverpool. A low prediction for United there. And yes, look at the bottom of the table. Being a Wolves fan, he
yeah.
has put some obscenities for Forest. So excuse that, any Forest fans. Ipswich to just survive. What's your take on those predictions?
Um, I agree with. I'd say top 4 is fair. I think Chelsea potentially are a little high. I do think they are going to struggle a bit more. I think Fulham is a bit low.
Yeah,
Maybe Bournemouth a bit low as well. But obviously glaring the obvious, Leicester at the bottom. I think that is a bit low as well, and Forest. But yeah, maybe I don't disagree. Maybe I don't agree with that as much as I thought I did when I first looked at it. But
All right, next up we have Connor's Premier League predictions here. He is an Arsenal fan and he has predicted them to go second. So Spurs third is brave. That is
I'd
very
say that is
brave.
brave.
Um,
Looking down there, I think
Ipswich
Bournemouth
to go down.
a bit low. I don't.
Forest with 2 R's.
Yeah, I
Sorry, I
don't.
had to point that out.
I don't think. I don't think Leicester would finish bottom. I'm shocked he hasn't put Arsenal top.
Well,
Um,
he did actually justify his predictions here. So he's
okay,
got. He told me I can skip it if I want, but I want to put it in. He's put that Arsenal has shite recruitment, which is why he doesn't think they'll win the league. He's
fair
convinced that
enough.
Liverpool will stink it up, but don't have the balls to write it down. One of Brentford, Forest, or Bournemouth. Sorry, he's clearly rushing to type this. I shouldn't
Bournemouth,
bully him. Bournemouth.
Bournemouth.
Um, So he's gone. He hasn't put any of them to go down though. He's put Ipswich. Interesting. And then he also put Spurs to do well, Arsenal to struggle early on, Southampton potentially to shock, one of the three I mentioned realistically to go down. Sean Dyche manager of the season. So this is one thing that we didn't pick up on just then.
True.
Everton in 10th is crazy.
Yeah, I think
if they
that
actually
is
finish 10th, that
a bit
is
high at the
wild.
moment.
Yeah. That could be very interesting. Then next up we have Mr. Daniel Churchill. Liverpool fan, unsurprisingly, putting Liverpool to win the league because he's delusional and puts that every year. City third is also crazy. I don't see them finishing anywhere other than top two, but this is why we have this predictions video. So when it comes back to May, we'll see which one of us looks stupid. Bournemouth to go down is another very rogue one, and even Everton, to be honest.
I think the bottom three is quite brave. Newcastle 10th. I don't know.
Yeah.
Ipswich 11th.
Ipswich 11th.
I think that's a bit high. Actually, that's way too high. City
West
third.
Ham 6th.
A bit unrealistic, but I like it.
Yeah.
West Ham 6th.
I mean, they're definitely brave. They're brave predictions. Yeah. And again, Daniel justified himself. I've got a video here, just like Luca the other day. This is what he had to say. When it loads, excuse Google Drive. Is it going to load in?
Hello, Jamie and Xander, you fucking big rastas. Right, and hello, podcast. What's on? My predictions, nice, quick and easy. I just wanted to say hello. Going down, Forest, Everton, Bournemouth. Everton is shit. Blue and white shite. Ipswich going to surprise everyone. I finish 11th because they're boss. And Liverpool to win the league. Because Lord. No. Arsenal second, City third. United in fourth.
Thanks for that, Dan. Looking back, don't really know how to react to that. And then finally,
apologies if you are offended by any of that bad of the left.
No. And then we have two more to go. Actually, we've got Jack Sanderson's predictions here. A Bournemouth fan. He has predicted City, then Liverpool, then Villa in third is a rogue one.
That's quite high.
Yeah, Southampton bottom. Obviously, he's a Bournemouth fan, so who's shocked?
Yeah.
Everton to go down. Any other ones that are jumping out at you there, Xander? West Ham quite high.
West Ham. No, I would say. Well, I think that's just about where I have West Ham. I think Spurs is a bit low.
Yeah.
Wolves maybe a bit low as well, but I guess maybe he doesn't like Gary O'Neill. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And then finally we have Mr. Stephen Murphinios, who's given again a bit of justification to each of the predictions here. City, unfortunately. Arsenal tight between the two, but they reckon they'll lose out. Liverpool
Crystal Palace.
Spurs bottled. Crystal Palace 6th is crazy. I like it. Bottom. Sorry, I shouldn't laugh because again, everybody each to their own. Where's he got United 5th? Fair enough. Leicester 10th. This is very rogue.
Interesting one.
But this
everyone's
is why we
underestimating
have this section.
Wolverhampton Wanderers, but there you go. Everyone's allowed their opinion.
This is why we have this section, and we will have to bring this episode to a close now because we only have an hour of recording left, and we've just ticked over onto the 59th minute. So,
oh dear!
Thank you very much for joining us today. We'll be back with you with more podcasts soon, I'm sure, and in May to revisit whether or not these are crazy prediction shouts or not. Any more to add, Xander?
No, I think that was pretty much all summed up there. Well, we've put our predictions out there.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much for joining us. Leave a comment below with some of the crazy shouts from our friends at the end there, and see you very soon.